Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for coming out today on a rainy, ugly day. So a good day to be inside, getting some financial knowledge. So we're going to talk about something that is often overlooked in the financial planning and the financial area, and things that people think about when they're getting their, lack of a better term, house in order, right? So we're going to talk about estate planning. So first and foremost, estate planning is basically a process of designating who will receive your assets to handle your responsibilities after your death, or the important word up there is incapacitated, right? We all know that sometimes life goes funny on you and you might not be in your full capable self to make all the decisions necessary to continue on with the life that you've been accustomed to. So I like the incapacitated up there. To make sure that your stated beneficiaries receive the assigned assets in a cost-effective manner. Estate planning is important to all individuals. It doesn't really matter your age. I have a pretty robust estate plan. I've been with the credit union for 25 years. I've been very close to finance pretty much my whole adult life. I started off as a co-op teller for North Shore Bank many, many years ago in Racine. So I really seen the benefits of people having a solid estate plan or a solid advanced planning. And I've seen the ugly side of it too as well. I remember early in my career, one of the stories that will always be with me is this elderly woman came in. It was mid-90s. I've been in this for that long. And she was just mishivered. She just had really no idea. And all she had in her hand was a statement from North Shore Bank with her husband's name on it. And he had over $250,000 with North Shore Bank at that time. And she literally had no clue. She didn't know who had the mortgage. She didn't know if there was She didn't know if there was a mortgage. She didn't know any of his assets, any of that stuff. So advanced planning and just having a conversation is really, really good. It's not just for old people. I tell my nieces and nephews all the time, have a plan, talk about it, put it down in writing. So grow your assets and to have younger children is what that is. We'll share with you some general steps in estate planning to consider to protect your family. Super important disclaimer is educational purposes only. I am not a tax planner. I'm not a certified estate planner. I'm here to give you all kind of a roadmap, higher level stuff for you all to think about, and then you all go out and do the research, because no estate plan is going to be the same for everybody. It's going to be different depending on your life situation and what you have going on and what you would want your wishes to be. So that's the full disclaimer out there. I want to make sure that you know my capabilities and that I'm being completely transparent with you about what you can expect today. So one of the things that you really should do in the beginning is sit down and take an inventory. I don't care how you do this, ladies and gentlemen. It could be writing it out on a legal pad if you want to get super sophisticated. And I apologize in advance. I clicked the wrong button from left to right to staple the packet together for you. So those of you that are left-handed are super happy right now. Those of you that are right-handed are like, what's he doing? So I apologize for that. But create a detailed list, including obviously the big ones: your home, your real estate, vehicles, recreational equipment. I really love the joke that went around. I got this meme from my brother-in-law, and it said, I hope my wife doesn't sell my fishing equipment for what she thinks I paid for it. Right, because you always discount it. Good one. Everyone else got that one? All right. So anything else like collectible coins, antiques, trading cards, those things that are going to have value. And also think about the things that are going to have sentimental value, right? My mom is 86 years old, bless her heart, living on her own still. We have a detailed list, and she's gone so far as to who gets what out of the freezer, right? The freezer food, that was one of her concerns. And I was like, Mom, let's put it on the list. You know, if that's important to you, then it's important to have it on the list. Because she didn't want that food to go bad. She wanted it to go to somebody, right? Which I get. So make sure you're having a really good list. Checking, savings, money market, certificate accounts. It's really a good idea to, when you start to get to that later stage in your life, I know a lot of people like to have a bunch of different accounts here, there, and everywhere, which I think is great, depending on how much insurance you need, depending on your asset size. But when you get to a certain stage, I think it's wise to maybe start consolidating. Think about the people that are going to be left behind and have to go to credit union XYZ, have to go to bank X, Y, and Z, have to deal with mutual fund stockbrokers and all that fun stuff. So if there's a way of maybe at least consolidating, I think that's prudent. If you're happy with where it is and you have a really comprehensive list, so be it. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what's out there? Have a really, really good list of all of that stuff. Your life insurance policies, any health savings account, your retirement accounts, pensions, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, other personal property we had mentioned. My grandma left me a really, really impressive coin collection. My other grandma left me her stamp collection. They're in the safety deposit box. They're on my list of assets, and they'll go to one of my nieces or nephews. So just think about all of that stuff and then try to assign who you want to get it. And again, it's very personal to you. Maybe it might be grandma's quilts. Maybe it might be grandma's china, grandma's silver. All that stuff should be accounted for when you take your inventory. Account for family. One of the things that I always tell people is life insurance is designed to help those that you're leaving behind, right? So if somebody is dependent on you for their livelihood, like you are paying for their home, their housing, you're paying for their education, you're paying for their food, then they should definitely be considered when you're talking about life insurance. Some experts say they should have enough life insurance to cover 7 to 10 times of your annual income, especially if it's a young family, right? So God forbid if you have somebody in their 30s and both parents pass away, you want to make sure that those kids are taken care of for at least the next 10 years of their life. So that's why they say 7 to 10 times your annual salary. Also make sure that everything is up to date on your life insurance policies, right? This is one thing that a lot of people overlook, especially when life changes. Great example is, let's say that you were married in a previous life and you have your first spouse listed as beneficiary for your life insurance policy. And then you get divorced and it's a whole term life insurance policy, but you've never went back and changed the beneficiary. Guess what? Your first spouse is going to get that because they have to abide by that contract. So an annual review, does anything change? An example that I can give you from my personal life is that my grandma had a life insurance policy that my uncle was the beneficiary of. My uncle passed away. She lived in Illinois, so then the insurance policy then went to his oldest heir, which was my cousin, right? So that's who ended up getting the life insurance policy. My grandma never changed it. She asked me to a couple times and I forgot. So that was one of the things that I failed to do. So just make sure that, one, you know who the beneficiary is that still the right person? And then what state they reside in. If there's any heir things that you might have, heirs, not heirs in the policy, but there are heirs that might play a role in that. Answer really how much money your family depends on how you will need. One of the good things to do is sum up all of your bills, right? Like, is there going to be enough in the life insurance policy? Is the life insurance policy going to pay the house off? And there's going to be some to pay for their colleges. Another thing to think about in this is, I say, and because I'm a pet person, account for your pets, right? You know, what happened, you know, I mean, they're not a part of the estate. We've all heard that story, right? The person leaves the estate to the dog or cat or whatever. But think about the pets that you have or anything that you want to be passed on to your family. Having a big mortgage payment and paying for college may be difficult if there's not enough life insurance. Plus, term life is relatively cheap for individuals in good health at the time the policy is taken out. That's what I had for the majority of my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I just had a term life and policy that renewed every 10 years. Our children are adult children. They're grown. They're self-sufficient. They're on the other side of the lake. They're living their best lives. So I don't have a large life insurance policy for myself any longer because they will be able to get the house as an asset if something were to happen to us, and they'll get my retirement account if something were to happen. I have my life insurance is set up to just take care of any outstanding bills and put me in the ground. That's really where my life insurance is designed to do. Another thing, consult with others with your wishes for your children's care, right? We don't want them going with somebody who really wasn't expecting to take care of children, right? So have that consideration. Some of you may be grandparents. Maybe today you have a conversation with your kids and say, hey, I was just at this estate planning. What's going to happen, God forbid, if something happens to the two of you? Are we expected to take care of your children, or do you have some of the other siblings? Here you go. Are you expecting somebody else to take care of your children? Again, it's really just a good conversation to have. I know it can be a little morbid, but again, you'd rather have it planned for than everybody's kind of like, I don't know what should be happening, or I don't know what the wishes are. Name a guardian and a backup guardian when possible to manage the assets left to the children. Trusted and financially responsible individuals make good guardians to preserve their assets until they're at least 18 or older. You can design your estate however you want it to be, right? You know your family and you know your kids the best. I've seen some estates where the money is in trust until they're 25, until they graduate from college, and then they don't get any additional. Yes?
What would be the appropriate document to include those wishes in?
Your will or your estate plan. Yeah. Yep. Either one. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, and again, just making sure that the people know about it, right? Sit down and have a conversation. It's, unfortunately, death is part of life, right? So having that conversation with everybody. I mean, you don't have to, I'm not trying to say make it a party or anything, but just say, hey, here's what we have going on if something were to happen. I knew my dad talked about this to me. If something were to happen to my mom and dad, I have older siblings. My sister was going to be my guardian. She's 12 years older than me, so that's how our family was set up. So again, just account for family, have the conversations, look at backup guardians. You may have somebody in mind, right? Maybe it's an aunt, maybe it's your brother or your sister, and that you may approach them and they may say, I'm really not able to take on that responsibility. Thank you, it's an honor, but I really rather not. You don't want to put your kids in a difficult situation. Here's that document, a will that directs what becomes of your possessions after you die. Every adult can benefit from having a will, regardless of age. Here you go. Mm-hmm. So having a will, regardless of age, wealth, or family circumstances. It's just not a bad idea for your wishes to be known. In that will, the husband and wife should each have their own separate will. You may have different things that you want done. Or if one survives the other, I would really recommend that. They shouldn't be drastically different from each other, but it doesn't hurt because maybe you got grandma's china and your husband has no idea what you want done with grandma's china. So if you just have one will and all assets go to one person, that's not probably the best way of planning that one out. It should state who you want to inherit your property, name guardian to care for your young children. We talked about that. It's called interstate, so your property and assets will be contributed in according to the state's law. So that's probate. So if you don't have a will or anything, then all of your assets go in front of a probate judge, and they get to decide who gets what. So really, just make sure that you have a will, have it dated. If you can get it notarized, get it notarized. A lot of lawyers in the area, if you just reach out, will do some estate planning, will do some will planning for you. But just make sure that it's on the up and up. There was, anybody hear about the Aretha Franklin story? Anybody hear this one? She had a will that she had made out, and she had it filed with her lawyer. And then when she passed away, they found another will in her couch that was dated after her first will. And there was a big, huge court case. The second one actually ended up winning, the second will, because it was dated after the first will. So just really make sure that if you do make a will, that everybody knows where it is, where the copy of it is. If you want to have a conversation around what's in it, again, depends on your family circumstances. We've all been around long enough. You've seen enough TV shows where, the reading of the will, is like the big climax of the story, the plot, right? You don't want to put yourself or your family, in my opinion, in that, unless you want to. I mean, right? If you want to be that person, be that person. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if there is no will,
Mm-hmm.
what does the state use as a guideline to distribute?
That I don't know. I've never been through a probate situation, so I really have no idea. I would look up probate law in Wisconsin and see what they would go with. But I'm assuming that if it's a single heir, it'd probably all go to that person. If there's two, I think they would try to split it. But I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea what the probate law would dictate. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Are there circumstances when it would be useful or even possible for all assets to be jointly held? Or is that, I mean, you mentioned the coin or stamp collection, how do you make that jointly owned?
I would say assets and what you're talking about, vehicles and property, yes, it is. Yeah, you can easily add somebody onto a title of a vehicle. You can easily, not easily, but you can add somebody on to a property, like a deed or something to the home, which brings up a good point. When I got married to my current spouse, I already had 3 properties that were just in my name. I bought those before we got married. My spouse was not on those properties like at all whatsoever. In my will, they were going to receive my said properties. But here's the sticky wicket, and this is why I'm bringing this up off of your question. What if I were to die without my spouses being joint on those properties? Now that is an event that is acquired assets that they would have to pay taxes on, because now they got them in my will. That is transfer of estate. So now they have to pay taxes on the value of that estate that was then transferred to them. So shortly after we got married, I redid my will. At the same time, I had my lawyer put quit claim deeds and add my spouse onto the title for the homes. So now me and my spouse own the properties together. Me and my spouse own all of our vehicles together. It's I recommend or instead of and when you're doing vehicles, especially for estate planning, because and means that that person needs their signature and your signature, or is either one.
So, in the case of the car, which could be
Yeah.
a fairly large asset,
Mm-hmm.
having it jointly, if something happened to me, then the person could donate it to cars for kids
Yeah,
or something,
absolutely.
as a write-off.
Yep,
Whereas
yep.
if they're not, then they can't.
Then what they would have to do is they would, if it's just in their name, titled in their name, they would have to go to the probate court and then get the probate papers and then go to the DMV and show that this was my spouse, this is what the probate said, and then they'd have to get it retitled, and then there's like a fee to get it retitled in their name. So it's just what you're saying is right on. Get ahead of it. Title the property in joint names. Yes. Ooh, I knew I was going to do that. Correct. Yep, because it's just in your name. Marital property really is designed more for like the lending arm of it, not some of the other arms when it comes to estate. You are assumed, but another situation is, even though I'm married in the state of Wisconsin, if I have an individual account at Educators Credit Union, my spouse would still have to have the probate papers before they could access my account after my death. So I have payable on death and power of attorney for my individual account that I have at the credit union with my spouse. So all they have to bring in is my death certificate, and Educators pays that account out to my spouse. So there's things you should do in that aspect. Well, that's coming up a little bit later on, but good points, everybody. So again, have a will. One of the things that I found that I thought was really, really neat, and I'm not getting any kickbacks from this publisher at all or not, but it's on Amazon, and it's a book, and it's called I'm Dead, Now What? And it's like a 40, 50 page book that, you've seen one of these books, like a little, it's really neat. It made me think about a lot of stuff that I didn't think about. One of them was my social media. I'm really active on social media. So it has in there all my social media sites, my username, my password, what my wishes are for my social media accounts when I pass away. So just little things like that. I really think some of those books will help fine tune some of those areas. Some of them can be online. Normal will cost less than $100. Make sure that the document is complete, signed in front of 2 witnesses. Does not need to be notarized. I recommend that it is. That's just my personal choice, but could be beneficial to do so. You should put the original and secure as a lockbox or safety deposit box, and make sure electronic file and your spouse, executor, or trusted friend have access to it. With safety deposit boxes, if you have one, try to have another authorized signer on it, so that's great that all your documents are there, but if nobody can have immediate access to them and know what's going on, if it takes some time to get through probate and get access and get a key and have the credit union open the box or the bank open the box, that's not really beneficial. So in our circumstances, me and my spouse are both authorized signers, and then my sister is an authorized signer, and she knows that she is, and she has a key. So that if something were to go wrong, she knows where the wills are in there, and every couple of years, her and I go and have lunch. It's not that exciting. We go through the safety deposit box, and I'd show, again, just as a refresher, right? Because when you're thinking about this, it's going to be a really difficult time for your family. So you want to make sure that you're setting them up with as much information as you can. Review it periodically. Make sure everything is good. Make sure it's up to date. Reviewing your will during important life changes, marriage, divorce, birth of a child, or purchase of a home. Like, let's say you sold a home and you no longer have that home and it's on your will. Well, it doesn't make much sense for that to be on your will. Before I was married, my niece got one of the houses that I own. My best friend at the time got another house, and my sister got a house. Well, once I got married, everybody got cut out. It all goes to my spouse. So I had to redo that. So again, it's one of those things that you have to be on top of. Again, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where maybe somebody that you divorced has even a claim or even something to say about the reading of your will. It's very clear what's out there. Consider a trust. You could hold your property in a living trust so survivors won't have to go through probate court, which may be very time-consuming and an expensive process. Property transfer into living trust before your death doesn't go through probate. It goes to the successor trustee. I think trusts are a good thing if you have like a lot of assets and a lot of things like going on. Like if you have a big, I'm not going to give you a dollar amount because it's really subjective to you. And if you have a legacy or something that you want to leave behind. It takes a couple weeks. There are no lawyers involved, no court fees to pay. Just remember that the trust, here's the thing about the trust, folks, in the eyes of the law and many financial institutions, a trust is its own entity in and of itself. So there was a mad craze in the 90s. A lot of people were doing living trusts and irrevocable, revocable trusts. That's fine, but anytime you're going to do lending and your house is inside of a trust, the lending organization needs to see a copy of the trust paperwork because they need to make sure that the trust, one, can do lending. Some trusts are set up where it doesn't allow the trust to do any lending. And two, the people that are authorized to sign and say the property is up for that are authorized to do so. So if you're putting things in a trust, I'm not poo-pooing trust, I'm just saying make sure you understand all the levers and mechanisms that go along with a trust. I had many people that were doing home equity loans when their things were in a trust, and they got really upset with me. They're like, well, why do you need to see my trust paperwork? They're like, it's my house. And my standard answer was, no, it's not your house anymore. It's the trust's house. The trust owns the house once you transfer that into there. You're the trustee, and you're the authorized signer, but in the eyes of the law and of the financials, the trust now is the owner. Going back to your ownership question, the trust now owns the property, not you. You can be an authorized signer, but there's that distinction. You have to understand when you put things into a trust, the trust now owns them. You are no longer the owner. You can be the trustee, that's fine, but do you understand that difference between the two? Okay, yes.
My understanding, though, that can also protect you because if you were in an accident and somebody
Yeah,
wanted to sue
absolutely.
you, and you don't have those assets
Yeah.
because it's in the trust.
Absolutely, yeah, it can, yeah. And it can protect, some of the times, it can protect from like nursing homes coming, you know, when your assets, they're not mine, they're in the trust, that's that ownership. But yeah, you got it. You can create a living trust. People use an estate attorney to create because details assistance need to transfer assets such as real estate. Again, when you're transferring it over, you have to do that. Normally, a will is also created within this process as a backup for any assets. you're not going to put like grandma's china into the trust, right? Trust is designed for those larger things. A will is more designed for what your wishes are and some of those other small items. There's going to be a time in our lives, we haven't done a trust just yet. When we hit retirement, our goal is to do the trust. As I told you, our 2 kids live over on the other side of the lake. They're not going to want property here in Wisconsin. So we're going to put everything into a trust, and then we're going to dole it out to the charities that we support locally. This is what our goal is going to be for the money that we have and accumulated. Yes?
So you don't want to give us a dollar amount, understandably.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a Wisconsin probate limit under which you don't?
Under 250,000 if your estate is valued, and I might be off on this because I'm not an estate planner, but what I've heard is I think if it's under 250,000, it doesn't have to go to probate, but anything over 250,000 will or no will, I believe, has to go.
And that wouldn't include jointly owned accounts, right? None of that would be in that $250,000.
That all would be included, yeah.
Oh, it would?
Yeah, it's part of your, so you own part of that, so yes. Yes, yep. I think 250 is the limit, but don't hold me hard and fast on that one. Yeah, I know there's a number, but yeah, thank you. Again, so we talked about is created just as that backup plan. Make healthcare directives. Without your wishes for healthcare can protect you and you're able to make your decision. Many of us are regularly seeing the doctor, and I mean regularly at least once a year. Many of them, I know Aurora has it. I know that Ascension has it. They have the Advanced Healthcare Directive form. Next time you visit your doctor, just ask. Say, hey, can I get the Advanced Healthcare Directive form? And it's like an 8 to 9 page document, and it spells everything out for you. And then they scan and they keep it on file so that they know that this is what your wishes are. My dad had late stage emphysema, and he had one of these, so he had a do not resuscitate order, DNR, which was his choice. And we knew that, and it did get to a point. He went in for an episode, and he was on life support for 24 hours, and the doctor came in and said, okay, he has a DNR, so we have to take him off. Is that, and we're like, that's what he wanted. He made it another 7 years after that. It was one of those really like chilling moments, those moments you'll always remember in your life. I mean, it was very clinical. Doctors can be like kind but clinical. It was very, very sad. He's like, well, I was like, what's going to happen? He's like, well, we're going to take him off and he'll expire, which I was like, that's such a, ugh. But no, he made another 7 years. So good for him. But just make sure that everybody kind of knows. I have this in my thing. I don't want to be hooked up to a ventilator for 20 years. That's just not me. That's your decision, right? That's a decision that you should really talk about, maybe with your house of worship, maybe with your friends, your family, whoever you want to make that decision, but it should be somewhere. There's even some medical alert bracelets that you can get if you want, so that it's very clear, especially if you know your health situation. Just make sure that you can do that. We chose somebody in our family. We have one of our nieces is a nurse, so she's on there as the decision maker because there is a DNR, but she could make that decision like, okay, they're not brain dead, but maybe a couple more weeks they could recover. So we've empowered her to make that decision. And then these individuals could literally have your financial well-being and your life in their hands. So what we did in our family is for my mom, I'm her financial power of attorney, and I take care of all of her money. And then my sister takes care of all the healthcare stuff. And we just made that decision as a family that that's the best for us. We didn't think it was fair to burden one person with both responsibilities. Again, if you have children, think about that. It would be a good way of making it fair for everybody. And then just having that conversation, just please don't put somebody on the form that they don't know that that's going to be their responsibility, right? It can be very shocking.
Can you put jointly on the form?
Generally with that, if I remember the form, you can only have one person because they don't want two people fighting about a decision, right? Because it's going to be literally life or death. So they don't want two people having conflicting opinions on it, from what I remember when I filled out the form. Let me think.
Put in a second.
I think if like that first person is not available or incapacitated, then the second person, yeah. But I don't think you can have like two people making the same decision. Thank you. All right.
Is there one document, or could there be several healthcare related documents? It's all in one?
I would go to your primary care physician, and that's who the one document should reside with. Because at the end of the day, that's probably where they're going to look. I think Aurora has Epic now, so they'll scan that into your file. And I think every time I go, my nurse is like, "Oh, I see you have your advanced health care on file," so it'll reside there. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but let's say you're traveling in another country, you have a heart attack,
Mm-hmm.
do those documents matter?
They should, and then I would also encourage you with your travel provider, whoever you're booking your travel arrangements with. A lot of times they have very extensive medical things listed in there, like what to do, who to call, and that type of stuff. But that's kind of a sticky wicket because, one, you're going to probably run into translation issues depending on what language the document was written in. So let's say that happens and you're in Bangladesh, right? And nobody can read English there and they don't know what your directive is. So if you're traveling in that situation, that might be something that one of the documents I would travel with, or have the bracelet. So that's pretty ubiquitous. Like a lot of people know, like if you're diabetic, most diabetics have a diabetic bracelet, right? That could be something that you could talk to your travel agent about. Or when you were visiting that country, maybe just next time you're going, just visit the hospital and ask. Especially if you're somebody that goes frequently, like if you're visiting like a couple times a year, just to know. Great question. That would be my recommendation. I don't know 100% though, but that would be my guidance for you. Healthcare for free, online plus my hospitals. I guess the hospitals are going to provide the form. Protect your children's property. You should name an adult to manage any money. Property minor, we kind of talked about this. It can be the same person that you put in your will. Family with special needs children may also need to consider a person to assist and properly plan for long-term needs. My really, really good friend, she has a sister that is developmentally disabled, and the family has advanced care set up for her. She's living with them. She used to live out at Shepherd in Union Grove, and now she lives back with them. And they've talked about it. You know, they know what's going to happen. One of the siblings has agreed to take over care of Erica if both parents were to pass away. So again, different circumstances for different families. Review and file beneficiary forms, naming beneficiaries for bank accounts and retirement plans makes the account automatically payable on death to your beneficiary and allows the funds to skip the probate process. You can also register your stocks, bonds, and brokerage accounts and transfer to beneficiary upon death. This is really important. I've said it a couple times before. We had a situation, unfortunately, where a man was married, got divorced, and for those of you that have IRAs, you know that you have to name a beneficiary when you open up the IRA, right? He had opened up the IRA in his 20s. He was in his 50s when he passed away. His first wife was listed as the beneficiary on the IRA, and she knew that. He failed to update to his second wife. First wife came in. We as the credit union literally couldn't do anything. There was like nothing we can do. Our hands were tied. And that woman ended up getting about, I think it was like $75,000. The second wife was not happy with us. I mean, we really tried our best to explain that, sorry, it was what your husband did. So just make sure you're reviewing and keeping everything up to date. If you're in a situation where you find yourself as the surviving spouse, that should be a time once the grieving is done that you should really think about going in and updating things, right? You want to make sure that that is on the up and up. Creating primary beneficiaries, secondary beneficiaries, also strongly suggested. One of the things that I've done with my mom, because I'm her financial, I'm joint on all of her accounts. So when she passes away, I'll be able to carry on her accounts, settle all of her last bills and all of that fun stuff, and then I will end up closing down that account. If I was not, that would be a little bit more of a challenge for me at the credit union. Again, I'd have to provide all those documents and paperwork. But how we have it set up now, I just walk in, give them the death certificate, they remove her from the account, and that life will go on with that account. One of the other things that I learned, and I did not know this, if you're receiving Social Security benefits and you pass away, Social Security will take those benefits. You know, you've been through this, yeah. Wasn't that shocking? So some of you that don't know this, so like, where are we in? We're in March right now. So coming up in April. So let's say that my mom gets her Social Security benefits on April 1st. She dies on April 3rd. Social Security pulls that money back because that money is designed for the full month of April. Some of you are nodding your head, so sorry, you probably found that out the hard way, right? And that they pull it right away. It's like as soon as they find out, it comes out of the account. So just make sure that you're thinking about that. One of the other things that is nice to have, especially when you're talking about estate planning, is have a plan with the funeral home as well. Think about that. One of the things that my mom has is she has a $10,000 life insurance policy, and it's assigned to the funeral home that she wants to go to, right? We've met with the funeral home. We know she doesn't want any music with words. She wants all the flowers donated to various nursing homes after she goes. She has a certain song that she wants. So just all that stuff. And then the nursing home gets the money right from the life insurance policy. So we don't have to worry about that. It's already set up. It's ready to go in the event of her death. I've seen just so many of my friends getting of that age where a lot of my friends, unfortunately, are starting to lose their parents. And they were like, Victor, I get a call like once a month. What do I do? I'm like, okay, here's where you start. But just do a little bit of planning, and it can really help out in the long run. Consider a financial durable power of attorney. With a durable power of attorney for finances, you can give a trusted person authority to handle your finances and property if you become incapacitated. So this is one of the ones that you can go to a lawyer for and actually have it established. Or many financial institutions have just power of attorney at the account level. This one is like a step up. So this person will act on your behalf on all of your matters if you are incapacitated. Again, it's just a personal decision that you would like, and there's a cost to the durable power of attorney. There's not a cost if you just go into educators and say, I want to add my kid on as power of attorney for my account. The durable one is a legal document from a lawyer that's drawn up, and those get filed. Just the thing to know about power of attorneys is that they act on your behalf, right? So they can come in and do things without your knowledge in some circumstances, and I've seen this happen. So again, make sure it is a trusted person, right? One time, unfortunately, there was a grandmother that put her grandson on as power of attorney. Grandson came in and wiped out the account. Wasn't a trusted person. And it was a very sad situation, but they were authorized to do so. So also one of the things to think about is that if you're in a position where you're helping somebody, maybe an elderly parent, think about some of these things and have these conversations with them as well. We talk with my mom usually once every year, just making sure, like, hey, you haven't changed your mind. Like I am still in charge of the Norman Rockwell collection. Super thrilled about that, but made her happy, so I just say, yes, thank you. I'm so happy that I could do that for you.
I'm not sure this may be a
Yeah.
question.
Nope.
Is there such a thing as a non-durable financial power of attorney? Or is this
The durable would take care of it. The non-durable would be just what you do at your financial institution. Yep. The durable is, like I said, like that step above. They would be able to go in and transfer the title into your name. Your durable power of attorney would be able to go and buy real estate in your name. Me, as a power of attorney for my sister's individual account, separate from her husband, I can't go and take a loan out in my sister's name. My power stops at the walls of that financial institution. But with a durable, it goes beyond that. You can buy stocks in somebody's name if you're durable power of attorney. You can acquire real estate. You can buy a car. So that's the difference. For a power of attorney at financials, it's in the walls of that financial institution. Durable is for the outside world in dealing with them. Yes?
But once you're dead,
Yes, great point. Why? Why?
because you're dead.
Yeah, there's nothing left to be a power of attorney over, right? You're not power of attorney over anybody anymore. They're gone. Yeah.
That's what everybody thinks.
They do. So that's a great point. That's why I always recommend payable on death and power of attorney, especially if you're a single person. Those are the two that you should have on your account: payable on death and a power of attorney. Yes.
Just have a question about
Absolutely.
the probate amount. You said like anything above 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
But if all your financial accounts, if for all of them you have beneficiaries, do
Mm-hmm.
all those amounts still count for the probate or not?
They should not, but I've heard that if it's over that 250, you still have to file with the state, because I want to make sure that whoever is getting those assets has to pay for the assets they have acquired. So that's why I think the 250, even if it is that beneficiary. So I'd really check out on that one with your estate planner or your tax planner. Yes.
One thing I think has been useful, I'm still working on it, and it's from an earlier slide I just thought of, is we have a lot of things like We Energy or AT&T that has an automatic payment.
Yes.
And we've got money that comes in automatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to keep a list of all the outgo
Absolutely.
income, of
Mhm.
the auto stuff.
Yep.
And that, because it was a mystery to me, whatever.
Yeah.
And,
The subscriptions, right? Your Netflix.
and
Yeah.
that's for someone to try to figure out what's going on.
That's why that book, I'm Dead Now What, that was one of the things that's in there. Automatic payments coming out of your account, and who do you pay, right? Another great way of looking at that is having a copy of your credit report with your important financial documents, like your will and that stuff. Why not annually when you're reviewing it, staple a copy of your credit report to it so that whoever is left behind knows all the credit accounts that are out there, right? That's not a bad idea, right? Nobody's really going to be looking at that document unless you die, right? So when you're gone, you need to know who's still out there, who needs to be paid from the estate. Understanding estate taxes, most estates, more than 97.7, won't owe federal estate taxes for deaths in 2019. Again, I'm not a tax person, so I'm just going to be reading this slide. Will impose estate tax at your death only if your estate's worth more than 11 million. You don't have to raise your hand, not all at once, right? 11 million. This exemption raises each year to adjust for inflation. Also, married couples can transfer up to twice the exempt amount tax-free in assets left to a spouse as long as the spouse is a U.S. citizen or tax events charity are exempt from the tax. Wisconsin currently does not have an estate tax. Large estates also have some charitable donations alternatives to reduce federal state part of that. It doesn't have an estate tax, but going back to my spouse's example, if when I were to die and they were not joint on that property that they received, they would have to pay taxes on that property because now it's a transfer of property, right? It's almost like I don't want to say sales tax, that's the wrong tax, but it would be a transfer of property.
I have a question.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're saying estate, you're meaning all
All your assets. Yep, correct. Yep,
physical property.
correct. Yep, you got it. Let's see here. Cover funeral expenses rather than a funeral prepayment plan. Some may be unreliable. You may set up a payable on death account at the credit union or bank to deposit funds into. This is, again, your choice. I've seen this done both ways. I've had a couple of the funeral homes when I was opening accounts at the credit union. People would come in and they would put X amount of money into a certificate of deposit, and they would name the funeral home as the payable on death, right? So that was what was designed. My mom didn't have enough assets to do that, so her life insurance is going to be is assigned to the funeral home. So the funeral home is the beneficiary of her life insurance. If there's anything left over above and beyond that, it gets kicked back to the family. So what we're going with the unreliable is that what if the funeral home folds, right? And you've already paid for the funeral. One of the things when my grandma passed away, she did this. She prepaid for her funeral, but they really messed up, and we didn't have any control. over that. One of the things that was really unfortunate is that the funeral home failed to make the announcement, and she was a resident of Illinois. She was up here when she passed away. So nobody in the community that she grew up in or lived in her whole life knew, and we had no recourse because it was already set up. And they kind of just gave us a handshake and were like, well, we're really sorry, but we didn't get your grandma's obituary in. So because we were kind of all standing around at the viewing, kind of like, where is everybody? You know, I mean, it's not like you wanted a big, but you know, it was one of those things that we thought about. We're like, God, grandma lived here her whole life. Why isn't anybody here? And lo and behold, that was the reason why. So again, you know, payable on death with that, and just making sure you're, again, having a conversation about what you want to have done. I know me personally, I'm going to be cremated, and I have 2 locations that everybody knows that I want my ashes spread at. Same thing with my dad. He had that, and we all knew. You know, so there's things that you should have put in place for people. Make your end-of-life wishes known regarding organ and donations and the disposition of your body, burial or cremation. You know, Wisconsin has that wonderful organ donor program. You can sign the back of your license, make sure that your family and friends know if that is to be true or not. They're getting kind of creative. Has anybody seen these natural burials? Have you heard about these? Yeah, where they put your remains at the bottom of by a tree, or there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's the cryo one I've heard about as well. But again, this is, you know, what your wishes are, what you want to have happen when you're gone. Again, just having a conversation. I think you've heard me say that enough today. So if you're a business owner, again, who's going to take care of the business? Most times, especially if you have a loan or some type of financial arrangement with a financial institution, they want to see your succession plan, right? So especially if the business has loans out there, they want to know, hey, who's going to be making sure the business is still running when you pass away? Who's going to take care of the business and pay us back? So they're going to ask for a succession plan. Likely have a buyout agreement. This can get really, really, really dicey, especially if you have multiple siblings involved, and especially if you have children involved, especially if you have a really, really good business, right? You want to make sure that you know exactly what is happening with the business and that everybody knows what your wishes were. And then, more importantly, is the business going to continue after your death, right? Is it just going to be shut down? What about your customers? What about the assets of the business? You know, so really have a conversation. Professional assistance could be really beneficial in this one, especially if it's a legacy business. And I mean legacy business, any business that's been around for 2 generations or more, I consider a legacy business. You want to think about that. We're in talks with, I have had this conversation. A really good friend of ours owns a small engineering company in Racine. And her and her husband, he's already retired, and I've talked to her multiple times, like, hey, what are you going to do? She's like, well, before I retire, I'm going to sell the business. She's like, I don't want none of the kids want it. They don't want to carry it on. Okay. So that's, again, she's already had that conversation. So where to store your documents, your attorney, in fact, and or your executor, the person you choose, your will, administrate your property after you die, may need access to the following. So that's great if you name somebody in the will, but if they don't know where it is, right? So make sure they have access, insurance policies, real estate deeds, certificates, bank account information. In our house, I have a blue folder, and it's our financial folder, and it's in the lockbox, and it has all that stuff that I've listed. It has where the will is, who our attorney is, lists all of our property on there, has everything just in one location. And I've told my sister where it is, my mom knows where it is, my brother that's in Iowa knows where it is. And so that if something were to happen, you want somebody just to be able to go in, pick up one folder, and everything is there ready to go. That is true estate planning. All this other stuff is going to be what this is for. This is your goal. So that when somebody needs to come in and help, they know where everything is, you know. And I have a funny little letter, you know, out there to that person. You know, it's my sister, my mom, and my brother. You know, it's just a funny letter that I wrote, because I like to think I'm funny, right? Some people now are doing videos. I've seen a couple people actually go through and do a video of their house. They walk through and they're like, all right, in the china cabinet, so-and-so gets this, this, and that, you know. Again, it's all up to you. So make sure that you have all this information in one location. Your funeral prepayment plans and any final arrangement instructions that you have made. Weigh the value of getting professional help. Is it worth hiring an estate attorney to assist you? If you have a relatively small estate, a lot of this can be done on your own, right? But if you have like significant, again, I'm really trying to shy away from giving you a dollar amount, but I think we all can agree that if you're over $500,000 in your estate, you probably might want to look at getting some professional help and making sure everything is on the up and up. If it's just you have an apartment and a car, I could see you not spending the money to go through the formality. There's a lot of help that's online as well. Make sure you hire a legal or tax expert for assistance. For the larger complicated estates, let's say that you're on your second marriage, you have kids from both marriages, you own a business, you have a boat, you have 3 cars, and you have property. You know, I would say you'd probably want to talk to an estate attorney and get something helping you out. That would be my recommendation. Maneuver challenges and lay out more of a comprehensive plan to accomplish your goals with your assets. Good estate planning is important because it protects the loved ones, and just everybody knows what's going on, and then you feel more at ease that your stated beneficiaries received your assigned assets. We had one situation, my spouse's sister's first husband's mom passed away up in the UP. And she was just old school, didn't really have a formal will or plan, and there were things that went super shady. You know, they had family members come in and just start taking stuff from the house, you know, and you've all heard these stories, right? You know this, you know, so just try to protect yourself from that. Of all ages, we talked about that. So for those of you that have children that couldn't be here today, Easter's right around the corner. Have a conversation. Hey, how are you guys looking for your estate planning? Especially if they have children. If you have grandchildren, think about that. Hopefully you'll use some of this stuff in the near future. Again, I've given you a lot of things to think about, again, in a short period of time. And those of you that are frequent flyers, repeat visitors, I made it almost the whole time without stepping on it. Any questions that I haven't covered? Yes?
Transfer on death deed, is that something that you recommend or not?
I recommend having somebody else on the property before you die. So you can have that be whoever that beneficiary is, because if not, then they have to pay taxes on that property that they acquired from your death.
Transfer on death deed, then they have to
Yeah, it's called a quit claim deed, and
then they have to pay taxes on that or not?
they don't have to pay, but they're responsible for. So in my situation, the property tax bills were just coming in my name, and now they come in both me and my spouse's name. We both pay them, so that person would technically have to pay for them, but if you're paying them, then they wouldn't. It's just you're just alleviating that tax they would have to pay on the property that's transferred to them.
But I mean, more like now, so it's my husband and I were both on it, but like for the children, to put
Yep.
them on their...
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Both out of state, it's like I don't want like for them anything to be complicated.
Yeah. For them, they're just going to probably end up paying the taxes on the transfer of property. So I would talk to a tax advisor and see what they would say for that one. I was talking more like just if it's just you and not like the children. So like in my situation was, as I explained, but now our children, we're not gonna put them on the deeds, no, because they're in Michigan, so it would make sense.
No part of probate, so that's really nice.
They would have to still, they would have to go to probate because they're gonna have to go to probate to get the transfer of Ted.
They didn't have to go to probate if there was a transfer on that deed already in their...
If they're gonna have to go to probate to get it transferred into their name, the property here. So if you both were to pass away at the same time, then that property is probably valued over the 250, so they're gonna have to go to probate to get, because what probate does is it makes sure that there's nobody else out there that you owe money to settle the estate. That's really the goal of probate. So then they would have to provide your death documents, and then the judge would say, okay, now the quitclaim deed goes into their name, and then that's when they would pay the tax on the property that they acquired.
Can you not do that ahead of time while I'm still alive?
You can do that now, yes, but they're still going to be responsible if they're not joint on the property for that transfer of property.
Yeah, but
They're gonna have to
it's
pay
not
the value on it.
probate. That's not considered probate, then it's just being transferred.
It's going to consider transfer, but yeah, they're going to still have to pay the fee on that, the tax on that. Yes, you're correct. Yep, you got it. Yeah. Did you have a?
I did. My mom passed. She had a will from 1987.
Mhm.
Supposedly there's another one, but no one can find it. My brothers are listed as the representatives,
Mm-hmm.
but neither one of them want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So probably just get a lawyer.
I would.
Nothing, we don't know where anything is.
Yeah.
Nothing. What the debts are, nothing.
I would say yes. Get a lawyer at this point.
Okay, because when I did research, it was hard to understand what they would be doing for us or not.
They
Just-
would do the research and find out all of what your mom owns or owes that's out there.
Excellent.
They would be able to say, like, here's everything that mom owned or owned, and here's the property that needs to be transferred into whoever else.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that's, again, what I was saying a little earlier, it's responsible individual, right? Mom, and I'm just guessing, and forgive me if I'm overstepping here, but probably of that age where the men in the house were responsible for a lot of the story that I told in the beginning, right? The gentleman that his wife came in and she had no idea, so I'm guessing that's what happened. Any other questions? Yes. Oop.
With regard to credit cards,
Yeah.
you see the statistic of quite a few people that have substantial
Mm-hmm.
amount of money that they're,
Mhm.
interest they're paying and so on. And if the card is in one person's name, if you
Mhm.
put it in another person's name also, they become liable for that debt?
Depends on how the card was assigned. So if you apply jointly, and this is where that marital property comes in, if the creditor used both incomes and both people to underwrite or to qualify for the loan, then the last person is left responsible. If it's just an authorized signer situation, then the credit card company would probably have a hard case in making that authorized signer pay for the outstanding debt. Does that help? Okay. Yes.
I have a question about the estate taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It says Wisconsin does not currently have any, but
Mhm.
like all my beneficiaries, none of them live in Wisconsin.
I would find out from their state.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it-
Yep,
it
I would just
only
Google
applies
their,
to
usually
beneficiaries
yeah.
in the state.
Yep, they're, I just lost the name of the department. Department of Revenue for that state should be able to help you out.
Okay.
Yep. Any other question? Yes.
For an estate planner, like, how much would it cost, like, if you go to, what's reasonable?
That I don't know. I have no idea. We haven't got to that part in our lives yet, so I haven't experienced that. For my will, I can tell you this, for my will and quick claim deed for the 3 properties was $800 that my lawyer charged me. I think it was $150 or $175 for each one of the properties for the quick claim deed filing, and I already had a will with him, so it was just updating my existing will, so I think it wasn't as expensive. But I think the first time I did it, oh gosh, this was when I bought my first house in 1998. It was like $300. So shop around or ask other friends and family and see, and make sure you're comfortable with that person. Yes.
You can go to the courthouse and do a quick claim yourself. It's not that complicated.
It's not. Yeah.
Just
I think there's a quick claim. I think you can go to Register of Deeds for the municipality, and I think there's a quick claim form that's out there. But the thing that gets sticky about that is that some make you do a title search. So what a title search does is it makes sure that there's no other liens or claims against the property before the property is assigned. That's why I went through the lawyer, because I wanted to make sure that because the properties are rental properties, I want to make sure that nobody had a claim that I didn't know about out there against my properties. So, but yeah, you're right. You can do it on your own. And then the other part that's hard to get is the legal description, because you have to pull that full like coordinate, so sometimes that can be a little tricky for people. But you're right, you can do it on your own. Yeah, most of this stuff you can do on your own. It's just your comfort level, right? If you struggle with some of it, pay an expert, right? It's like a light switch, right? It's not terribly hard, but sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Right. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it, and thank you those that came back for the third time. It really good seeing all of you again. Hopefully you got some good information. Amy, thank you so much. She does have the flyers out there for you for upcoming things that are going on at the Kenosha Public Library.